broadcasting from Netroots Nation 2016 in St. Louis, Missouri. There's been a lot of talk about electoral politics here as well as movement politics. And here to discuss that with us now is Abigail Collazo. Abigail is the electoral director for the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. I got that right? PCCC. We know them as PCCC. And she joins us now. Abigail, thanks for coming on the program.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you guys are generally thought of as a progressive democratic organization. It's an election year. What's on your radar right now? What are you guys seeing as the opportunities, as the challenges, and as the prospects for November?
Well, we're looking at everything right now as opportunities, particularly coming up on the Democratic National Convention in just a couple of weeks. We are working with our 1 million members across the country to unite progressives and Democrats behind a bold progressive agenda that helps working families, including debt-free college, expanding Social Security benefits, and taking on Wall Street and big banks. So these are the big issues that we're focusing on this election cycle, and we're playing in a lot of primaries across the country with some really fantastic, bold progressive candidates who are really pushing this message and who are going to be winning their primaries and then going on to win in November.
So who are your favorite, well, I shouldn't ask you that because if you name... if you leave one out, you're in trouble, so I won't ask you that. Instead, I will ask you, what do you see as some highly competitive races people should be focused on right now?
Great question. There are so many primaries happening this summer. One of the biggest ones we are devoted to is working with Pramila Jayapal, who is a fantastic candidate running in the Washington 7th, that's in the Seattle area. Mm-hmm. And Pramila has been involved in the bold progressive fight for decades now, so she was instrumental in helping pass the $15 minimum wage bill in Seattle.
Okay, great.
So she's been doing this work for a long time, and she has been endorsed by all of the major progressive organizations. And we have been with her from the very beginning, and I will actually be on the ground with her campaign next week,
great,
leading up to the August 2nd primary. So that's a big one for us, and we're real excited to see her in Congress. Some other races we're focusing on are Susanna Randolph is going to be in the Florida 9th district, and she has been a community leader in that area for a long time, strong ties to the community.
And where's the Florida 9th again? Oh, I've had Susanna. Yes, I've had her on the show.
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. She mentioned to me. So she is in the Orlando
yeah.
area,
uh-huh.
and she has done a lot of fantastic work with working families, a lot on healthcare, and she's incredibly devoted to the issues of expanding Social Security benefits, particularly for seniors and for those who rely on it the most. Yeah,
she was terrific. Actually, she was great. I'm a big supporter of her. Anybody else we should be? Any other races you're really involved in now?
Yeah, well, glad you asked. We actually just won a fantastic primary with Zephyr Teachout up in the New York 19th.
Right.
And so Zephyr is going on to a very competitive general election campaign against a Republican. So this is one of our top opportunities to not just flip this district from red to blue and put it squarely in the Democratic column, but squarely in the progressive column, because as we know, Zephyr Teachout is one of the boldest champions for anti-corruption fight, for taking on Wall Street and the big banks, and for standing up for working Americans against the special interests. So she's going to be an absolute game changer, and we are all in for her campaign leading up to November.
Because I know that district, which I'm a little familiar with, I think that used to be John Hall's district, and it is one that has been leaning Republican for quite some time. I think John Hall got in the general Republican and the Republican wipeout year. Now I think it's currently Republican now, right?
Right.
And so Zephyr's thrilled that Zephyr won. She's going to have a tough race ahead of her, so she's going to need the support that people can give her.
Yeah, right? She is, and it's interesting though, because we like to think of districts as either being strong or leaning Democrat or Republican, or they're held by a certain incumbent. But the truth is that we've done polling on the issues particular. And when you ask people in general, do you support expanding Social Security benefits? People say yes. They say, do you support debt-free college for students so that our students can graduate with a degree without being burdened by this crushing debt that follows them the rest of their lives? And people say yes. So this is across the board, Democrats, Republicans, independents, non-affiliated, in all of these districts. So it might have been leaning one way, leaning another way. There's an incumbent in one area, another area is open. But the truth is that people around the country are uniting behind these bold progressive issues, no matter where they are.
Right. No, this gets to a great point. We're talking with Abigail Collazo, who is the electoral director for PCCC. But this gets to a great point, which is, I think, when pundits and the typical political consultants talk about districts or states or elections, their framing of what it means to lean Republican or lean Democratic generally, especially if they're establishment Democrats, for lack of a better term, gets them to thinking, well, we've got to sound like a Republican if we're going to have a shot in this district, because they've been electing Republicans for a while. But the fact is that what we call the progressive agenda or the left agenda, whatever you want to call it, that if you do look at the polling among, let's say, what Republican voters feel about Social Security, they don't want a Democrat who wants to waver and compromise with corporate Republicans on Social Security. They want Social Security expanded. They want Wall Street regulated and reined in and the big banks broken up. They want Social Security expanded. These are, I think I said that already, but they really want it.
They really want it. They want it twice.
They want it so much. Exactly. I had to say it twice to cover how much they wanted. So I think that's really important. And I think for a candidate like Zephyr in that district, which includes, I think, Kingston, Dutchess County,
That's
some
right.
of that. It's very, very important to be able to deliver that message.
I think that expanding Social Security benefits particularly is such a great example because, just a few years ago, as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, Democrats were not necessarily on board with this idea, right? The whole idea was on defense. It was all about, how much can we prevent the Republicans from cutting it? And, even senior members of our party, Democratic leadership was talking about, well, how much are we going to have to be forced to cut? And within 3 years.
Some Democrats really believed that we should cut it.
Well, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't necessarily know the issue as well, and they were often buying into this Republican frame that it's the program's going broke, we need to cut back, we need to cut back.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it's very funny because it was at this very conference at Netroots Nation just a few years ago that the Progressive Change Campaign Committee got together with some of our allies, some of the other progressive organizations, and said, how do we flip the script on this? We know this isn't what it's about. We know this isn't what people want. Let's go on offense. Let's go for what people really want, which is expanded benefits that are going to help people more. And in just 3 short years, we managed to completely change the conversation and change the narrative. And now everybody is talking about expanding Social Security benefits, including President Obama. So I think we're going to see this issue across the country now.
That coalition who started talking about expanding Social Security includes our very sponsor, Social Security Work.
That's right.
Who is, that was a great fight. A lot of us were involved in that at the time, and it's been a tremendous victory, and it's a tremendous turnaround. So what about Susanna Randolph? Now, it's Susanna Randolph. She's in the Orlando area. Is she in the kind of same, I don't know that district as well. Is she facing the same kind of challenges that Zephyr Teachout is facing in upstate New York? Is she in a Republican-leaning district, or
she's not?
That was Grayson's old district.
That's correct.
Right?
She's and she is Alan Grayson's former district director, so she has long ties to the community, right? So it's a very different race. But what's so interesting, Richard, this year is the fact that even though we're looking at such different landscapes in so many of these districts, at the end of the day, not just our polling, but our conversations with people on the ground, it's all coming back to the same issues. So this race, Susanna's race, is different from Zephyr's race in that, this is more of a Democrat seat. These are a much more competitive primary. We have a lot of different people running. But at the end of the day, when you look at the issues and who's been on the ground working with the people the most, people want Susanna Randolph in office. And they want her to continue advocating for their issues, for expanded Social Security benefits, for background checks, for expanding health care access and taking on big banks. They want her in Congress doing what she's done her entire time there, right, which is advocating for the community. So it's a different, area in that there are a lot of other people who are running, and not one of them holds a candle to Susanna Randolph's experience and to her excitement and passion and interest in pushing this bold progressive agenda that those constituents want.
Well, all right. Well, I think that pretty much covers it. Where can people go to get more information on what you guys do?
Oh, I was hoping you would ask me that question.
Yeah,
I was waiting for it.
Right.
So the Progressive Change Campaign Committee is actually a 1 million member organization, and a lot of our members are connecting with us online at boldprogressives.org. We are also on Twitter at boldprogressive, and we are going to be following all of these races for the next couple of months leading to the election, and people can sign up for our email list to keep in touch and to find out how they can help these candidates win.
All right, very good. Abigail Collazo, Electoral Director of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. I got it right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so